basically when Corinthian collapsed, that was like a huge moment. The equivalent, I would say, would be like Lehman Brothers. When Lehman Brothers collapsed, it was just, I started going, okay, what's the story here? What happened? Why did this multiple billion-dollar company fall apart very quickly? And I started pulling everything that I could on the industry. It was books by Suzanne Mettler, Degrees of Inequality, which we feature in the film. David Halperin, who's in the audience, he had an ebook. It was just all the articles I could get, and it was very clear very quickly just how bad this whole story was. When I started digging for students, I found upwards of 100 within 2 weeks. And the hardest part about that was, finding them was easy. It was getting them to talk to me and talked on the phone, and even harder was to get them to come onto camera. And the students in the film are really courageous because, I had a chance recently to speak with some of our students, and they told me that after the interviews, it put them back in a gloomy mood for days afterwards, especially some of the harder hitting stories. And I basically wanted to make a film that would do justice by them. And so just from that point, from June 2014 on, it became a for-profit college, heavily focused on that. But rather than focusing just on the industry, I kind of had to figure out why were for-profits as successful as they were, and I had to look at all of higher education, state disinvestment of our publics, the private nonprofits,
right?
And this is what fail state is.
And Mr. Rather, if you can tell me what got you involved, what about this issue drew you in to want to support the film?
Well, first of all, Alex was so dedicated to this that his depth of caring on this was the first thing that impressed me. The second thing is he's a really talented young filmmaker, exceptionally talented. So I'd have to say right away I was interested. But beyond that, this is a big issue. And this is first-class investigative reporting of a kind that I've spent a lifetime aspiring to and aspiring to help. It's something that matters. This is a subject that that really matters, and I could see that. And then beyond that, back to the investigative reporting, that Alex, in addition to being such a masterful filmmaker, is a really good reporter with the kind of deep drilling, deep digging investigative reporting, which I think jumped off the screen at you if you paid attention to this work tonight. And, it reminded me that what news is, this is a documentary, it's not a newscast, but news is what the public needs to know that somebody somewhere, particularly some powerful person or forces, don't want the public to know. That's news. Nearly everything else is propaganda or commercial. So for all of those reasons, when the opportunity came to help Alex, what little we could, I said, sure, I'll raise my hand, I'll do what we can.
Wonderful. Well, and that's sort of a follow-up then. Why do you think that this isn't more known about? Why are we just finding out about? I know that some people do know about it, obviously, but why is this not reported more? Why is it so underreported?
The target market of this industry is they tend to be the most voiceless people of our society. They're low income, they're minority, they're single mothers, they're service members and veterans. When they get targeted and when they get taken through the ringer, a lot of times they're either incredibly embarrassed, incredibly filled with human despair, and they don't know how to vent. And a lot of times they just don't want to do that. And a lot, just imagine, for example, Lewis, he told me when he'd gone to Westwood College, he'd go to these summer barbecues in the Chicago suburbs and be telling everyone, I'm going back to college, and everyone would congratulate him, right? That's a good thing. But then the following year, when he found out his accreditation wasn't valid, he dropped out. What is he going to tell his family? What is he going to tell his friends? Oh, I'm not going to college because I got defrauded. He just said, I had to drop out because I couldn't afford it. And he in many years, he stayed just internalizing that. Murray, very similar. It's just these people, they feel ashamed because they feel like they did wrong. And there's a culture of victim blaming around this, where it's some people will say, oh, I know this school, such and such school is really bad. Why didn't you know? You must be stupid. This is your fault that you failed. But what I wanted to show in this film was that this is a very well-oiled machine. It's built from the ground up to churn and burn through students.
But back to your point about why it's been so underreported, one reason is that there has been a concentrated and extremely well-financed effort to keep this story below the radar, if you will. There are other factors, including what Alex alluded to, that the shrinking of feet on the street, that is, real reporters out covering, the dynamics of financing journalism are such that everything's been shrinking. Therefore, where it was not too long ago, you had literally dozens of reporters covering your average state legislature. Now it's down to very few, never mind the city council level. So an issue such as this, it made the combined pressures of fewer journalistic institutions with the resources to do this kind of reporting, and the pressure from the big money interests, who are the predators in this case, the combination of that has kept the story somewhat depressed. But there's no doubt in my mind, and social media, back to your question, demonstrates it, that there is a swell, a groundswell out saying, you know, this is outrageous. There are a lot of outrageous things happen, but it's hard to find anything that's more outrageous than this. And so I think the public mood, which is building, is along the lines of, you know, we're better than this. We don't allow this in this country. We're better than this, and we know it enough already. There's a groundswell of that, and I think you're going to see it, and it's going to take time, because they're, if you will, they're rebooting, that is, the nonprofit, the for-profit business is rebooting. Again, they're sort of under the overall reporting radar, but they're rebooting, they're working quietly to have a resurgence of the for-profit colleges, which is the reason that I find this film not only so important, but also so timely.
Absolutely. And so speaking of timely, you know, I have to ask about the current administration and their plans to sort of help the for-profit industry, if you can talk about that.
Actually, it's really interesting, ironic maybe. This coming week, the Trump administration begins gutting the borrow defense rules, the loan forgiveness rules that we allude to in the film. And early next month, they're going to be doing the negotiated rulemaking for gainful employment and the gutting of that. So this is happening right now. This is right in front of us. And we're seeing a level of precision that is faster than George W. Bush. The language that they're using is really, really strong, really precise. And it just seems like it's coming from outside parties. It seems like once Trump won, the law firms all mobilized, and they were like, from day one, they're going to do this. And, you know, we didn't get into the very specifics of it, but Trump's Department of Education is being stacked with for-profit college cronies, basically. You have people, Betsy DeVos's senior advisor right today is a guy named Bob Eitel, who is an executive at Bridgepoint Education. The person who's been put in charge of fraud at the Department of Education is a former DeVry official. This is like the same, you know, past is prologue. It's a circular thing that we showed in the film. It's happening again. And, you know, like my worry, you know, what is happening in the current administration is they're going to keep doing it. They're a juggernaut. And so what my hope with this film is we're coming out at the perfect time. It's supposed to mobilize everyone, because right now we're not seeing that. There's not enough people speaking up about this issue. I want something like the net neutrality fight with FCC. Like, we need to have everyone submit thousands upon thousands of comments to the Department of Education to at least slow them down.